you know, there are supposedly 3 things that any commander needs after much study of human factors, which I taught at IOC and TVS. I was a human factors instructor. So the things that they say a commander needs is physical toughness, intellect, and will. Those are the 3 that they'll break it down to. And this is really from a German. The Germans will say character, but when Americans translate it better, it says will. So like I knew, you know, I needed to make these 3 things happen to have them have faith in me. I was taking over due to some problem. You know, the other captain was leaving to admit. You know, there were some other issues inside of there, so I was taking over at the very end.
And who were you taking over from?
His name was, God dang it, Marty Lewis. Captain Marty Lewis. So knowing that this was going to be like a challenge and I had to do it rapidly, like the physical toughness was easy for me being a wrestler. So I determined to fight everybody in my company. Anytime we had a formation, by rank, they could call out, like first platoon commander got to call out 1 person. So I just started fighting everybody in the company. You know, and that was the physical toughness piece. I had no problem. You know, of course they threw Sergeant Mejia at me right off the bat because he was the toughest kid on the block. You know, the best ground fighter. And I was like, yeah, like bring it. You know,
he's your martial arts instructor too.
He's my senior martial arts instructor. So like, and that was great. So then they were, you know, everybody's like, oh, can't wait to get to see him get his ass kicked by Sergeant Mejia, and everybody was like, you know, Sergeant Mejia's gonna whip his ass, and it was great, just whipping his ass and then taking on, you know, 4 more people after him. And so, you know, that was the physical toughness piece. Like, believe in me because I am the alpha male of this fucking organization. You know, I believe that. Like, we are base individuals at best. So, like, I will be the alpha male. And if I can't be there, I'll be somewhere else. You know, if I was a runner, I'd probably take him on a run. But, like, so, you know, set myself as the alpha male there. Then intellectually, you know, started calling the officers and staff NCOs in at 4 o'clock in the morning and started passing the philosophy. But, like, there were 2 tracks. There was a training track and an education track that I had to follow, and they had to be done simultaneously. And on the training track, what I found out was, you know, my guys were not certified on their weapon systems. Nobody had certified them on the saws, the 203s. You know, we just weren't where the frick we needed to be. And so determined that X will happen. And like started setting up this, what the lieutenants will still say is like the craziest thing they had to go through, which was 9 ranges. It was 9 or 8 ranges in 5 days. And so like you're talking a whole company, like new commander, like whipping around, and like I remember like, Luke, we can't do this, sir. Yeah, we can. We're gonna make this thing happen. Like start delegating, because Luke had been the commander really for the unit, and Luke had been the everything for the unit. I have this philosophy that I try and teach new lieutenants about the way shit works, and what it is if in between my hands right now is a person's capacity for work or capability, whatever you want to call it, right? Everybody has a different capability, capacity for work. Most lieutenants, all right, have a large capacity for work, and initially in garrison their job only requires this much capability or capacity, right? So what they tend to do is they do their platoon sergeant's job to get a little bit more up to their capacity, or they'll do a little bit of extra shit to get up to their capacity. The truth is nobody should ever be operating, especially a Marine Corps officer, should ever be operating anything over 80%. The reason is shit's going to go sideways, and he's got to have that 20% reserve to fight the fight when it gets tough. And so like Luke though was doing the gunny's job, the first sergeant's job, the platoon commander's job. So like he was right at 90%. And like I had to teach him, like when I made that happen, he couldn't do it. Like he rapidly ran out of capacity, teaching him to do these other things. You know what I'm saying? Like pass it off to him, pass it off to him. And he did a really good job with that. The point there was training track to the Marines, like you're going to be good at your weapon systems. On the officer side of the house was education.
So 9 ranges, which one's on range road?
On range road. It was all on range road. You certified with your weapon. Everybody's certified. Like I shot 20,000 rounds with the saw to get all my saw gunners certified. You know, which a guy from the 90s, like 20,000 rounds for one company for your 26 saw gunners. It's like, I love the war. And like inside
like the fiscal year.
Yeah, well, but that was just normal day. The idea being, and when I was teaching lieutenants there, was I refused to accept, like every range had multiple lanes inside of it. So even though some guys were doing the M16, there was grenades going on, IED lane. Trying to teach the lieutenants, like if I step on your range and everybody is not 100% busy, I will kick you square in the ass. And like making training that way where it has to be a flurry, it has to be hard fought, and like the officer corps got to like train those Marines with every ounce of energy. And then on the education track was getting them, like I knew a lot about Ramadi. I had been actually studying Ramadi since 2004 because my friends were there. I had several friends who were sending me emails back to IOC and TBS. So that education track of this new way of thinking, like a counterinsurgency way of thinking, because they were all very kinetic based, minus Mexica and his guys. They seem to be counterinsurgency based. And so noting that right off the bat, like I saw the opportunity that Mexica was going to be the guy, like for this kind of pit type organization. What I knew about the city at that time is they were arranged in little police stations, sort of, and that the guy I was taking over for had 3 bases. But I didn't know like that, you know, I knew there were some police living with him in one of his main bases and everything like that, but I didn't really know what was going on at the other OPs. But I knew like if I wanted to make a permanent force with the Iraqis to cohese with them. Mm-hmm. And so I knew that Mexica would be the guy that was going to be the lead echelon on that.
And did you talk to Mexica about what he'd previously done in terms of developing some of this thinking?
Yeah, like, well, and Luca Mexica had given me some ideas. And, like, here was the thing, like, they had it, like, education-wise, but, like, they were unwilling and at the beginning, like, again, they rapidly adapted. In the beginning, you know, there was a fight, like, still must run through the streets, still must be very kinetic, like, not going to get shot. And again, like, they couldn't be any other way. You know, you are a victim of your own experience. You know, and their deal was, you're not getting my Marines killed.
Because Mexica had seen some Marines pretty badly injured.
Mexica had seen some Marines killed of his. Mexica had probably lost the most people out of anybody in Lima at that time. Sergeant Mejia and Belmont definitely had seen worse.
Right.
You know, those 2 guys in Huseba, they definitely saw a lot worse. But as leadership-wise, but Mexica turned the corner. Like, Mexica knew how to win this type of fight.
So what were some of the personal qualities of Lieutenant Mexica that allowed him to do that?
He was a rogue.
Okay.
Mexica, I love to quote him as, he was, there are probably 3 total qualities. First off, he was the lieutenant that everybody loved to hate.
Okay.
Because he was not willing to follow the rules, like, if he didn't think they were necessary.
Okay.
Which was perfect. Like, that was perfect. Like, I liked it. Like, that's what I need. I need a guy who's not hot, must follow a rule, like, must go left. And then the other thing about him is extremely well educated. Like, I'm talking, like, way round educated. Like, he was probably the biggest reader in the battalion. He was a brilliant trainer. And then the last and most important and most frustrating thing about Lieutenant Mexica is he had the divine right syndrome. What the divine right syndrome is once you're convinced you're right, it's by divine intervention that you must act that way. It doesn't matter how much knowledge, like, General Petraeus has about, you know, counterinsurgency. If Mexica decided he was wrong, it was a divine right that he was wrong, and that didn't matter. Like, nothing else mattered. That's good, though. I mean, that's the thing. Like, that's a guy who's leading with his heart and soul. You know, sometimes his brain.
So it translates into a conviction.
Yeah, like, I mean, it's like Mexica. Like, once you convinced him it was right, like, you said, like, you just, like, pointed him that direction, and man, the guy was going to waylay everything in front of him to make that conviction happen. Right. You know, and I wish I could say, like, Mexica started the whole thing, and I wish I could say I did not use him wrong for a period of time. You know, I did. I broke several people during this whole thing by making them operate way out of capacity.
Can we just kind of find a stopping point here?
Yeah, let's go ahead and change the tape.
Okay.
Good, I gotta piss.